What up and welcome. I am Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. This is my YouTube channel, Coded Design, where I teach coding and user interface design. I decided to create an API crash course. Why I created this crash course? In trying to explain how to call an API or how to fetch data from an API using React or pure JavaScript or even Next.js. I've just noticed that the community is struggling or it's difficult for it to get or to quickly understand how to fetch or how to communicate with an API. Upon thinking and trying to understand what might be the problem, I realized that students or coded design community, we really don't understand what an API is. We don't have a mental model, a clear picture of what is an API. Hence, we are finding it difficult to fetch data from an API or to use an API. So, in this crash course, I'm going to give you all the basic concept of what an API is so that when we get into Next.js, fetching data from an API, it can be easier for you to do it because you've got a picture of what an API is and also what are the rules and how it responds and all that thing. Okay, so without wasting time, let's just jump straight into it. Okay, what is an API or what does API stands for? Okay, API is a short for application programming interface. Okay, these explanation or these words application, programming, and interface are going to serve as a foundation from which we are going to explain API. Okay, so as you can see, we've got application. Okay, what is an application? An application it's any small instruction or step-by-step instruction that is going to be executed by a computer in trying to solve a problem. Okay. In this case, when we talk of a computer, we are not talking about what can I say, a laptop or a desktop. We are just basically talking about a CPU, okay, or a microchip, okay, a very small device. Okay, it might happen it doesn't look like this, but a very small device that is able to accept the input, which is computer instructions, and then it generates an output. So basically, when we talk about a small program portion of step-by-step instruction that are going to be executed by a computer, we don't necessarily mean a computer at home, which is a desktop or a laptop, but we just mean this microchip. Okay. So we are just defining it in a very general or a broader sense of it. So an application, it's those small programs, okay, written by us as the programmers. Okay. So these small programs will be fed into a computer or let's say a CPU. They will go through the CPU and the CPU is going to produce an output. Okay. Generally, we call an application a program, sometimes a computer program. So you get an essence. Any small step-by-step instruction that are going to be executed by a computer in trying to solve a problem, then we call that an application. Okay. Obviously, an application it's built or it's made up of application components. Okay, what are the components of an application? Okay, let's say this is an application. Okay, let's say this is an application. Okay, uh, two, two. Okay, let's say this is an application. Okay, let's say this is an application. So obviously this application it's made up of components. Okay, and what are those components? An application is made up of number one, a user interface, a business logic, and a database. Okay. Obviously, we are keeping it simple here because we want to burn the concept. Burning the concept meaning that I want to give you some sort of a clear understanding of what's going on so that you can grasp the basic foundation of what an API is. So if we are talking of an application, okay, uh, if we're talking of an application, okay, let's just say an app, we are talking of UI, the user interface. User interface, it's what you interact with. It's your buttons, it's all the things, the button, the input text boxes, everything, the list boxes, everything that you interact with, what you touch and what you see. Then we call that a user interface. Okay. And then we've got the business logic. Okay. Sometimes it's called the business class. Okay. So here, this is where the intelligence is. Okay. This is where the intelligence lies. Okay. It's all those if conditions and also functions and classes that have been planned carefully by the developers. Okay. So that the application can work perfectly and give us the desired output. Okay. This is the business logic. And then we need to store information. I think now the word IT, information technology, will start to make sense. Okay. Information technology is all about processing raw data into meaningful information so that we can make informed decision. Okay. So meaning that here now we have a database. Okay. A database. Okay. Something more like a storehouse where we will store all the information. Okay. Where we will store all the information. Okay. So we've got these three parts. Okay. This is part number one, part number two, and part number three. These make up an application. Okay. Now let's continue. Okay. Now let's go to step number three, application platforms. Okay. Now we are getting closer into the essence of this crash course, which is the API as the key. Okay. Let's say now we've got this application. Okay. What this application does, let's call this an invoicing system. Okay. Okay. We've got our invoicing system. It's working fine and we are happy. Okay, we are singing Kumbaya. We are happy that our application is working, our invoicing system. Now let's talk about the application platform. Now we are asking ourselves, where is this application going to run? Let's say this stage was more like planning. Let's say it's not necessarily working, but we are done planning it. We are done with the planning. Okay. Now we are asking ourselves, where is this application going to run? Okay. Let's briefly talk about the possibilities. Okay. Possibility number one, it can be what? A web app. Okay. Can run on a browser. Okay. It can be a web app. Okay. The possibility number two, it can be a mobile app, which is it runs on our cell phones. Okay. Okay. Meaning that it runs on our cell phone. So meaning that it can be okay, can run on a computer. Okay. Let's say this is my computer. Okay. With a little mouse there. Okay. And then this is a cell phone. Okay. Sorry about that. This is our cell phone. with all our buttons here. Okay, so as you can see, we've got two possibilities. Okay, it can run on the computer, on the browser, or it can run on a smartphone. Okay, now the question is, how are we going to make that happen? How are we going to make that possible? Okay, meaning that we can develop two applications, okay, two apps, hire a lot of developers to develop two apps for us. The one that is going to a web app, okay, a web app. Okay, guys, we're going to hire some guys who are going to create a web app for us, meaning that from the database, user interface, and everything, they can do everything that these guys did, meaning that duplicating what they did, but creating their own version that is going to suit the mobile app, meaning that in the end, let's say we are going to have two code bases, the one for the web and the one for the app. Okay, so meaning that if something goes wrong with the app, we need to, with the web app, we need to call the guys for the web app to fix it. If something goes wrong with the mobile app, we need to call this team, okay, the mobile app team to fix it. And also, if there's an update on the mobile side of, on the web side of thing, obviously these might must be some sort of a mirror image of the other. They might feel the same and function the same. So if we update something on the web app, we also need to update something on the mobile app. As you can see that number one, there is some sort of redundancy. Okay, we've got two code bases, an app for a mobile app, and also we've got an app specifically for cell phones. Okay, so now let's introduce API as a solution to this so that we can have one code base, okay, that will cater or that will suit some sort of different platform, application platform, okay. At the moment, please be some sort of advised that this doesn't mean we've got a hybrid. Okay, this doesn't mean we've got a piece of technology which is like React that can run on, let's say, on a web and also on a mobile device. This is not the case, okay? But this just means that we need to structure our code in such a way that we just pull the data from one code based, okay? Once we get the data, we rearrange it in some sort of locally on a device, okay, using a certain piece of technology, and also we rearrange it on a web using a certain piece of technology, okay. Now let's just create a new page somewhere here, okay, so that we can get into details as to how does the API solve this problem for us, okay. So as we know now that we are having a problem of two code bases, okay, the one for the web and the one for the app, okay. Now let's introduce the API to solve the problem, okay. Okay, let's introduce the API to solve the problem, okay. Now as we introduce the API to solve the problem, let's also introduce a concept, a good programming practice, something called solid, okay, the solid principles, okay, which will help us to understand why things are done this way, okay. The solid principle is some sort of a good programming practice or a standard to follow, which is we only gonna talk about the S and the O, okay, which is the S in the solid stands for single responsibility, okay. Okay, this is a single responsibility, okay, and then meaning that a module or a function or a class in an application needs to do one thing and one thing only. It's more like it encourages, let's say, if we're talking about the context of human beings in the workforce, it encourages employees to be some sort of specialist. Okay, you need to be a specialist. We must know you for maybe for being a mechanic, or let's say, let's talk about doctors. Okay, we must know you as a dentist, meaning that you specialize with teeth and all those things. Okay, and also there must be a doctor for the heart. Okay, and also there might be an eye doctor, ear, and so forth. Okay, so the single responsibility principle encourages that sort of arrangement. Okay, meaning that it creates some sort of a network of independent specialists, okay, which they are self-contained, meaning that they are just themselves. They can work well independently. In case of doctors, they can open their own surgery, or they can work for in a government hospital. Okay, this is a group of specialists, but these guys, they work hand in hand. Okay, in a system. Let's say this system, it's a government hospital. Okay, there is a relationship between these guys and the hospital. Okay, so when you go to the hospital, okay, you are not aware, okay, because you just want help. You are not aware of all the independent doctors. Okay, you are not aware of that, and also the relationship on how the hospital call these doctors and make appointments. In your own mind, you think that these people are, let's say, full-time employees. Okay, what you know is that you will find the doctor in the government hospital. Okay, you don't know that maybe at 2 o'clock this guy is not here, he's working in his own private place. Okay, somewhere there. So as soon as you get to the hospital, you get the doctor. Okay, so the single responsibility principle um uh favors a loosely coupled type or sort of an architecture, whether is in coding, in functions, in application, but it promotes that you must have independent functions. Okay, independent functions. Okay, that can be reused. For instance, if this doctor has a problem, okay, the other people in the hospital, they are not aware of that. Okay, they need not to be aware of that. Okay, meaning that these guys here, they are not aware of that. What we can do, we can swipe, okay, this doctor with the other doctor. Okay, we can take another doctor and swipe this doctor. Okay, as you can see now, once this part has got a problem, we don't fix the whole entire system, and these guys, they are not affected. Okay, as you can see, they are happy, they're smiling because everything is working well for them. They get paid at the end of the month, and sometimes they go and do their own things. Okay, so this type of an arrangement makes it easy. It's easier to fix a certain part of the system that doesn't work, and also it doesn't affect the entire system. So the solid principle promotes that kind of an environment. Let's just quickly talk about the O also, the open close principle. Okay, now that we've got this loosely type of an architecture, not the one that is coupled together where you only see the government hospital and everyone works for the government hospital. If one doctor is not here, meaning that we are all stuck somewhere. Okay, and also we've got a lot of doctors here that we are paying, but they only solve one problem once a month. Okay, as you can see that this is not going to be efficient. Okay, with that being said, now we've got number two, or the alphabet O, which is for open close. Okay, this one is for single responsibility. This one is for open close principle. Okay, I understand it looks like a contradiction, open and close. Okay, but however, this means that, okay, this perfect system, okay, it needs to be open for changes. For instance, let's say we've got another branch here. Okay, this branch needs to be open for changes, for it needs to be open for modification. Okay, as you can see that we can fit another doctor here. Okay, let's say this doctor, it's coming outside of the country. It's an international doctor. That's why we've got this red line here. It's not like a normal doctor like this one. So as you can see, this system fits like local doctors, okay, like doctors for from the country, okay. But however, sometimes we've got international doctors that come and visit us or work for us, okay. So we need to design a system in such a way that it's not closed like these ones. Okay, we need to design the system in such a way that it's open for international doctors, okay, when we need them. Okay, let's say we've got an international doctor here. Okay, now he's here for a certain period of time in the country, then we can hire that doctor to do something that we don't specialize in. Okay, as you can see, the reason why this part is open, okay, this is this O for open. Okay, it's open, meaning that it must be open for modification, meaning that it must be closed for it must be open for extension. Sorry, okay, let me just write this. Okay, it's open for extension, for extending the system, because extension, it's something that we are not sure when is it going to happen. Okay, as we don't know when is this doctor going to visit our country, or when are we going to have a a patient that needs this doctor. So this is open for extension, for extending the system. Okay, but the system must be closed for modification. Okay, meaning that when this doctor comes, we don't have to go to the hospital, okay, report into the system hospital and have a list of all the things that needs to be changed. Meaning that now that this doctor accepts what can I say, foreign currencies, meaning that we have to go into our HR system. We have to dive deep into currencies, and as if we're not aware of the problem, okay, converting rands to dollars, okay, let's say. And also now we need also to take into account that this person will speak a different language, and everything that comes with integrating an international doctor into the system. This means that if we don't apply the open close principle, okay, it will mean that as soon as we receive an international doctor, it will mean we have to go to the system and change it, okay, modify it. This is a problem because once we start to modify this system, we might get a lot of bugs. Okay, we must get a lot of problems here, a lot of errors. Okay, just to put this into perspective, maybe in your own country or where you are, you might have heard of a system when it's down. It happened in government officials, it happened in banks, also it happens in applications that you are using, maybe even the popular ones um like Chrome and Mozilla Firefox or whatever browser that we are using. So this means that there is an error or a bug in that system. That's why it crashes, or the system is slow. So meaning that the programmer's duty is to keep these bugs at a respectable distance. We are running away from these errors as much as we can. Hence, we are applying a strategy where we're saying that this has to be open for extension, but it must be closed for modification. If this system works, we don't want to keep on going here modifying it. If this part works, if there's something wrong, let's go here. Okay, let's fix here. So that is the open close principle. Okay, so the API, okay, it's like indirectly, even though you are not going to hear somebody saying that an API it's an implementation of Solid, okay, because remember, Solid doesn't reinforce that it must be applied. Okay, you can apply it anywhere. To be honest, you can even apply it in your real life. Yabo, okay. So meaning that the API in this application comes some sort of as a way in which we are trying to apply this single responsibility and the open close. Okay. So meaning that now in that application that we talk about on the previous page, okay, that we've talked about in the previous page, okay, we've talked about the UI, okay, we've talked about the database, we've talked about we have mentioned the business logic, okay, but we didn't mention the API. We didn't mention the API, okay, because during that time we were thinking that it's only going to be a web app, of which that is not the case. Okay, so now let's get to the API as a solution. Okay, so now as this is an application, okay, as this is an application, now we are not going to write all other parts. We are only going to write the API. Okay, the API here. Okay, we only got an API. So this app, okay, step number one, this app or this code base, okay, let's say this code base, okay, needs to expose, let me write this. Number one, this code base need to expose, okay, functionality, okay. This code base now needs to expose certain functionalities, okay, meaning that if there is a visitor, okay, if we are having a visitor asking us something, okay, we must be able to give this visitor an answer, okay, without making changes here, okay, without, let's say, in case of the bank, okay, somebody is here and they're asking the teller, how much do I have in my bank account? Okay, the teller is supposed to be able to answer that without going to a senior management with an account number asking them, and then the senior management said, no, this person doesn't belong in this branch, they belong in a different branch, so call that branch and ask them. So as you can see that this is not efficient, because now these guys are starting to act as if they didn't know, okay, meaning that there is no API, a system that has been arranged in such a way that we expose certain functionality or certain data, okay, we expose certain data. This might be balances, this might be withdrawals when somebody want to withdraw. This might be loans. This might be things relating to an account if we're talking about the bank industry as an example. So when this visitor comes to ask us something, we must be able to give him an answer, okay, instantly. As you can see, we must be able to give him the answer, because that answer has already been here, okay, has been supplied, or it has been exposed by an API as balances. So if this person asks the cashier about the balance, the cashier can be able to respond. Okay, as you can see, an API here exposes functionality. Okay, what is the other thing that the API does? Number two, this API exposes, okay, data. Okay, it exposes data. As you can see, when they get the balance, that balance, it's information, okay, meaning that we must know the account number that needs the balance, okay. We need to know the name of the account, the name associated with the account number. We need to know the ID associated with the account number, so that we can verify what this person against the database, okay, which is the database will be here. okay, to see if we are giving this information to the right person. And then also, obviously, we've got the amount, okay? Maybe this person has got 6 rand into their account. Okay, so the API is there in the entire system to expose functionality, okay, publicly, okay, and then also to expose the data. Okay, how does this solve the previous problems? This then means, okay, working on the solid, the S for single responsibility. Now we are going to have our application, okay, our application that through this part called API, okay, through this part called API. Okay, let's see if I can erase this. Okay, undo it, erases everything. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Okay, erases everything. That's fine. Okay, let's see what I can. Okay, so now we can have the application. Okay, as you can see, this application will have this open door. Okay, and this open door, it's an API to expose the information so that it can be readily available without getting here and making some changes. Okay, so that's how this relates to the solid principle. Okay, the open close principle. Okay, meaning that now this API helps us to some sort of be able to answer some external agents, okay, who might ask us something, or some others, they might ask us to do some certain calculations for them. Okay, we've got an app that is there that has one duty, okay, which is it has got a certain group of instructions. As you can see now, we have eliminated, let me just change the color, we have eliminated now the UI. We've taken the UI out of this because it was too much work for this application to do. Where is this application going to run? At the moment, please think of a server. It's online. Okay. Cloud computing. Think of a server. This application is online. Okay. So we have taken out the UI. Okay. And also we have taken out the database. Okay. Taken out the database. Okay. The API talks to the database. Now we've got a relationship between the API and the database. But the API now it's not a database. As you can see here, they were inside one thing. But as you can see here, the database is outside. Okay. The database is outside and the API is some sort of sitting there alone. Okay. The API talks to the database, yes, but it's not a database. These things are not coupled together just like here. Okay. So as you can see now, we've got this API. It does one thing. It's just an API. It exposes some functionality and some information for the external agents when they want to ask us something, then we can be able to answer them. Okay, as you can see, what we have done indirectly, number one, our architecture is loosely coupled. We've got the UI. At the moment, we have not implemented it, but we don't really, not necessarily we don't care about it, but it's not coupled here. Okay, and also we've got the database. Okay, we've got the database sitting there on a different place, and then we've got the API. Okay, the API now is just conscious of being an API only. It doesn't have to know much about the database. The database might change, might be substituted by the other one, but the API is not aware of it. That's single responsibility. It's only aware of the things that have got something to do with the API. It's not even aware of the user interface. The user interface might be different. It's not aware of it. Okay. So what's the possibility that comes with this paradigm or certain way of thinking? Okay. Let's continue. Let's take it further. Okay. So this certain way of thinking, okay, brings us to an API. Now let's talk about the API. Okay. Bring us to an API as something that exposes functions. Okay. Let's also repeat that exposes functionality. Okay, what type of functionality? Let's say we've got a method with the name get balance. So, okay, let me just change the color. Okay, we've got a method get balance here. Okay, okay, this is a method get balance which is being exposed by this API. Okay, so this API, okay, this API now, since we've talked of the application. Okay, since we have talk of the application environment, where is the application going to live? Now, as you can see, we've got a possibility where we can have one API or some sort of one code base, okay? This one. But it can be used by a desktop. Let me try to draw a laptop, okay? Nice. Very nice HP there. Look at those drawing skills. Okay. So meaning that this code, which is just for the sake of explaining, let's say this code is JavaScript. Okay, so this JavaScript code can ask for something from the API, and the API will expose that information to this JavaScript. Okay, and then let's say um we've got the mobile app here. Okay, and this mobile app, it's Apple. Okay, it's an iPhone. Okay, Apple based, that means it's an iPhone. Okay, and then obviously the language here, let's just say it's Objective C. Okay, Objective C. This Objective C can also ask for something here on the API. The API will give this platform the information. Okay, so when this web asks for information, it displays the information in the entire screen. This is the same balance that we get here. Okay, let's say the balance is 6 rand. Okay, it displays the 6 rand here. But the mobile, it's the screen is too small. Okay, so it can't fill the entire um page. Let's say there are some other things that it must display here, so it will take that 6 rand and display it here. Okay, and then it will display other things here. Let's say, as you can see, this is platform A and this is platform B. But platform A and platform B, they are both getting information from the API. Okay, they are different platforms. As you can see, this is a laptop and this is a mobile phone. Okay, also here in the mobile phone, we also got an Android. Okay, here. Okay, and then here the language is Kotlin. Okay, the language here is Kotlin or it's Java. Okay, then also this Android phone can still ask for something from the API, and the API will give the same information. The Android displays the information in black, as you can see, 6 rand. Okay, so this is how the API comes to rescue. Now we've got different platforms. It's not like before where we must have a code for the website, everything here. And then we code the same code for Android, we code the same code for for Apple or whatever. So now this code here, this code here, this code base, it's some sort of, let's say, platform independent. Okay. So what the API does, okay, or this is possible because there is a piece of code called application programming interface that exposes functionality and functions and the data. Okay. Now let's just take this further. Okay. Go back to the terms again. We have number one, defined the application as a computer program. Okay. Application programming. Okay. We know the concept of programming. Okay. We don't have a problem with that. Now let's get into interface. Okay. As you can see now, this can now look like, okay, we've got this laptop here. We've got this smartphone here, Apple, and we've got this smartphone here. Okay. Now there is a wall here, which is an interface, an intermediary between these devices and the code base. Okay. And this intermediary, this interface, okay, it's the API, application programming interface. Okay. It's here to some sort of bring a universal language between the code base, okay, and these devices or any other person that might want to query or get help from the code base. So do you get the idea of interface? Okay, meaning that if this guy, the application, the API is talking to different people in different ways, okay, in even in different languages, as you can see, maybe here on the back end we've got PHP, but this PHP is talking to JavaScript, it's talking to Objective-C, also it's talking to Java, maybe sometimes Kotlin. There must be something that is going to some sort of be one language, or if it's not a language, some sort of a structure that all these devices and all these pieces of technology will understand. And what that is, let's go to the next page, and that is a JSON. Okay. Okay. I think this stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, so meaning that now let's just go draw a simple diagram. Okay, we've got our code base here, our classes, our intelligence, or whatever. This is the code base. Okay, but this code base is written in PHP. Okay, this code base needs to have or uh, needs to talk to an API so that it can communicate with some other devices, other external agents, and whoever wants help from the code base, okay, through this API. Let me just change the color. Okay, talks to the API. Okay, so the API talks to the code base, and the code base talks to the API. Okay, and then the API will take whatever that it gets from the code base, okay, and rearranges it or displays it in form of a universal data structure. Let's say, even though the word data structure is not used in computer programming, okay, because it might mean something different, but now just get it as a structure and data structure, okay. So, and that data structure, it's a JSON. Okay, now as you can see, things are starting to be uniform. Okay, so whenever you are calling an API will bring back a JSON structure of a data. Most cases, or we call it a JSON string. Okay, different technologies. Let me say let me say Java, let me say JavaScript, let me say um ASP.NET, let's say, or whatever. Okay, pure Java, Java straight. Okay, so these guys, even if maybe there's PHP here that can work. So these guys, they can convert in their own ways the JSON string into an object that they can use. Okay, so now whenever we talk of a JSON string or a JSON object, always think of a collection. Okay, because this data is coming always as a collection. It's more like a group of data. So, meaning that you have to unpack the data and look at it one by one. Okay. So, think of it as a collection. Okay. That means when we are fetching data from an API, always have a collection in mind that this is the response that you are going to get. You are getting this response as a JSON string. Okay. Some sort of a bundle of things inside. Okay. Arranged in a certain way. We're going to talk about that. Okay. And then these guys here, okay, these different guys will receive the JSON string. Okay, they have to convert the JSON string. Okay, let's say they have to convert the JSON string into their own. For now, I'm just gonna borrow the term native JSON object. Okay, once it's an object, okay, so meaning that this happens in all of these different type of technologies. Okay, once this happens, now this becomes alive. This string, these words becomes an object. Okay, now let's just draw it as with rounded corners so that we can have that feeling of now it's an object and also the color is red. Okay, okay, as you can see here it was more like squares. Now everything, it's more like it has got rounded corners because now this is an object. Okay, what does that mean? Meaning that we have to take this JSON object and loop through it, or we have to unpack it and look at each and every piece of it. Okay, each and every piece of it, so that we can extract these one by one and do whatever that we want to do with them. Okay. Okay, now let's draw the same thing, but now getting it closer and closer to some sort of reality, and use terms that you will encounter when you are working with API. Okay, now let's talk about communication through the web. Okay, so now we've got an API. Now we are very close to the actual thing. You've got an API. Okay, this is an API. This API must have an endpoint. Okay, it must have an endpoint. Okay, let's say we said before this is going to be an invoicing system. Okay, this is our URL. Let me write this endpoint here. Okay, which is www dot is for invoicing system. Okay, / API, because we want to get into the API, / balances. Okay, or balance. We call this an endpoint. Okay, an endpoint. Okay, this is the server side. Okay, let's say we are having a laptop. It's you connected to your laptop at home. You want to know your balances. You want to get this 6 rand sitting here in a database. Okay, we've got 6 rand here, South African rand, in a database. Okay, and the database talks to an API. The database talks to an API. You want to get this 6 rand through this endpoint. Okay, meaning that as a laptop, okay, as a laptop, you have to make an HTTP request. You have to make a request. This is G. Okay, you have to make a request. And this request is an HTTP request. Okay, meaning that when you are making a request, you need to send some information. Okay, it's like when you want to marry someone as a man, when you want to marry a woman. I'm not sure if this varies from culture to culture, but in our African culture, okay, as a Xhosa guy, I'm a Xhosa guy. Okay, when you want to marry a woman, okay, you need to send the elders. Okay, people who are going to speak in your own behalf. Okay, negotiate. Okay, when you are sending those elders, okay, you need to have some information. Information number one, which girl, the name of the girl, because in that family you might have a lot of girls there. So if your elders come there and say we want Natasha, and those guys say we don't know Natasha, it becomes a problem. Okay, so you must have the name. Okay, it might be an idea to have a mental picture of how she looks so that your elders might not bring the wrong girl. Okay. Also, this is when they are there already. Okay. You need to give them some address. Okay. Let's say it's 6502 what street. Okay. Okay. Now they need to know how long have you guys been dating? Okay. How long? How do you know each other? They need to have some sort of a context of what's going on, because that family will say your boy has been maybe dating our girl for 20 years, of which that's too much. Okay. Or maybe it's only 2 days. So we can't give you our girl because we don't know the guy better. So the what I'm trying to say here is that whenever your elders are going there to request this woman that you love, they must have information. Okay. And in most cases, when they get there into that house, this information is hidden. It's not written in their face. It's not like they go there presenting a big billboard with all this information. No, this is information for them to use. But when they are there, similar to this HTTP request, okay, you need to send some certain data, okay, certain data. This is the data that we are going to send. Let me give you an example. Okay, what type of a request is it? Is it going to be a post, or is it going to be a get? Okay, a get request. Okay, are you getting this information based by a specific user, or you are requesting it like for all users? That's the type of information. However, I've talked of this of invisibility here, that this information is not, some of the information is not visible. Okay, let's put that into context. Okay, the HTTP engine, okay, this is an HTTP request. Okay, it will also put some of the information with this bundle. Okay, this is the information that you as a developer, you are not aware of. Okay, it's how this technology communicates with the API or the HTTP request technology. Okay, then you take this information, you present it to the API. Okay, let's say this is you asking for something, this is your request. Okay, hitting this endpoint, let's say this is the door. Okay, you are hitting this endpoint, but you are hitting it with some information. Okay, I think my orientation here is wrong. The reason why this is Q, it's simply because as I'm presenting to you, my head is more like this. Okay, it's more like this, it's slanted. So even when I'm writing like this. My apologies for that. So let me fix my head to be straight so that I can write proper. Okay. So you are hitting this endpoint with the information that you have. Okay. Some of the information as a developer, you are conscious about it, you are aware of it, but some of it, it's hidden. It's for you to understand, okay, to understand, but not to use. It's for the HTTP request to use. I don't want to completely say it's none of your business. It's important that you know these concepts, okay? For instance, what type of information that you might not be aware of, okay? Sometimes when you are making a request, you don't really specify the headers, okay? There's some sort of things which are called the headers, okay? So some of the things you don't really specify in details. Maybe the framework or the language that you are using might help you with some of those things, okay? So the same way, okay, the same way in which you did here, preparing all the information, some of the information you see, some of the information you don't see. This endpoint will respond. This is called a response. These terms are very important. Okay. Let me choose any color. Okay. This endpoint will respond. Okay. Okay. We've talked of a request. Now the endpoint is responding. Okay. The endpoint is responding. So when the endpoint responds, it responds with some sort of a data that you are going to see, but at the same time, it's going to respond with a data that you are not going to see. It's for you to understand as a developer, but sometimes not for you to use. It's for you to understand. Okay, it's important that you understand the concept, because when you're in the interview, they will ask you the concept. They want to see that you understand how data is being transferred from through the HTTP request or on the internet. Okay, as you can see, we've got request. Let me just make some marks. Okay, green marks. Okay, we've got a request. This term is important. We've got a request. Okay. We've got an HTTP request. It's important that you put it into your memory, commit into your memory. It's an HTTP request because it's through the internet. Okay. It's a certain protocol. Okay. And then it's important you understand that this is an endpoint. Okay. Okay. This is in a server. This is an API, application programming interface. Okay. This is an endpoint. Okay. This is a type of an endpoint. Okay. This is a URL. Okay. This one just some sort of look at the syntax, how it is. This is a domain name. This is a folder. And this is maybe this might be a function or just some sort of an identifier of just to identify what are you actually looking for. Are you looking for balances? Maybe if you hit balances, a certain function will be executed and it will return whatever. Okay, so I hope you got those terms. Okay, and then let's go back to JavaScript. Okay, let me change the color there. Let's go back to JavaScript. So now we are back to JavaScript. Okay. Remember what we said before. In this information, some of it you can see, as I have told you, this one and this one, something that is more like visible or it makes sense to you. Okay. Some of it doesn't really make sense to you. Okay. So this one first is going to be the JSON string. JSON string. Okay. The one that needs to be converted. But remember, it's inside a package also. So there's a lot of things going on here. Okay. So it's a JSON string. And then the other one, it's what can I say? It's a status. Okay. This is important. This one, it's a status. Okay. Why a status? It gives you an idea. This is a term that you must memorize. It gives you an idea of, was your response successful? Okay. Like for instance, if you submit a request to an endpoint that doesn't exist. Obviously, in your status, there will be a certain code. Okay. Okay. Here, let me just type a status code. Let's say, let me say this is a status code. Okay. So you will receive different code based on what's going on. For instance, if the status code it's 200, okay, let me draw a smiling face here, okay, so that I can bend this into your brain, okay. If the status code is 200, okay, that means everything went well. Okay, this is me here. If you are wondering how I look like, okay, this is not actually me, but happiness and smiling, it's me, okay. If the status code is 200, everything went fine. If the status code is 400, something is wrong. Okay. You have a duty to go and research about the server status code or server code. Okay. This is not me because this guy is not smiling. Okay. As you can see, his ears are a little bit down and ugly. Okay. Let's continue. Okay. So, as I was saying, as I was saying, this is what you are. This is the response. Let's call all of this the response. Let's call all of this the response. Okay. In this response, in it, there is a JSON string, there is a status code, and there is a lot of things that you don't see as a developer. Okay. So now once you receive the response, in whatever language that you are using, you need to convert. Let's start by extracting, converting, because sometimes this extracting and converting happens in the same code. But just for the sake of clarity, okay, for the sake of explaining to you, let's say you first extract, okay, because I want to explain it clear to you, okay. In this package called response, because this is not the data that you can work with immediately, you need to extract the JSON string, okay, this object. Okay, that means after you extract it, you will have to convert it. Okay, you are converting it into a native object that this language understands so that you can loop through it. Okay, this is my symbol for looping. Okay, that means you are looping through it. Okay, so you extract it and then you convert it into an object that you can use. Okay. And also sometimes you want to know what was the response. That will mean you also have, you also as step number three. Step number three, you also have to extract the status code. Okay, if it's 200, kumbaya. If it's 400, something is wrong. Okay. At some point there is some sort of a string here. I think it's just the status, which is it's not true or false. I think it's okay. If the status is okay or something like that. That means everything went well. You can display whatever message. Okay. Now, let me just give you an idea of the data that you get from this JSON before I continue. Okay. So, the data that might be like that you might get, it's from the database, from a database table. Okay. Okay. Now I need to erase. I hope you have taken some notes. Okay. So I will have to erase. Okay. I need some space here. Okay, I think this will be fine. Okay, so we have a table here from the database. So this is the information that you are getting. Okay. We have the account number. We have the account holder, AH. We have the amount on that account. Okay, and that's it for now. Okay, let's say the account type is a check or saving. Okay, so this is the information that you are getting. Okay, it has been pulled by an API from the database because they work hand in hand. Okay, now it's going to be something like this. The account number, it's 001. The account name, it's Met, which is me. Okay, the amount, let me just say a million. Okay, and look at how intelligent am I. I'm gonna write a million like 1M. Okay, because I'm intelligent, I'm smart. Okay, and then the type of account, it's a check account. Okay, and then this information will be brought to you as a JSON object. So it will be, let me just open these curly braces and close it. Okay, it will be here. Guys, that's about it. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. If you feel like this has added value into your overall understanding of API, okay, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. See you on the next one.